When I first saw mScope from MarketScan, my mouth just dropped. Why? Well, it's an amazing tool for OEMs to make sure that they have a competitive edge for all the models and markets that they serve in a fast and easy way. Let me explain. Consumers seek out the affordability of vehicles in their local market, and often rebates and incentives play a big part of that decision matrix, and OEMs know it. They spend billions of dollars a year on rebates and incentives. But what if OEMs want to buy up market share in a specific model class? Or what if OEMs want to increase market share in specific regions in the United States? Well, in order to do that, they're going to need to know what other OEMs are doing in those markets. They're going to need to know what other bank and lenders are offering consumers on, well, competing financial models. And this is where the product shines. By looking in real time, OEMs can determine what rebates and incentives would make the end result payment to consumers competitive against models that they want to grow market share against. And this is amazing because with the millions of data points at every zip code, with every lender, with every competing OEM, well, this is an amazing tool to do precise targeting on price and, well, helping OEMs to build market share. It's an amazing platform that we wanted to include in this year's AWA Awards because most OEMs are doing this manually. That's right. With today's massive data warehouse that MarketScan provides, OEMs could do in seconds what took hours in the past. Throw away all those spreadsheets and work with a real-time tool that can do what-if scenarios to really create precise targeting. Well, don't take my word for it. Let's take a look at how the team at MarketScan is innovative ways in which OEMs can better target with precise offers and rebates to grow market share and dominate the competition.
Hi, everybody. Rusty West from MarketScan here. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to visit with me today. We're going to show you a product that we've created called mScope, and mScope is an analytic product designed to help manufacturers get the most out of their rebate and incentive spend. So as I run through it, I'd ask you to take into consideration a little bit about MarketScan just as a whole. I've got a little timer here that I'm going to start that'll help keep me on track. And it's kind of entertaining to watch because every 10 seconds it'll update and it'll show you the number of payments we calculated since I started talking. So far today, as an organization, we've calculated a little over 200 million consumer-facing payments. And we calculate over 5 to 6 billion payments every single month. We're powering a little over 10,000 rooftops across the country. Right now, at the time of this recording, is 10,716. Through this process, we calculate what we call scientifically perfect solutions for any conceivable automotive transaction. And those have to take everything into consideration. All the consumer information, all the manufacturer information from rebates and incentives, and all the information about the different vehicles, all of the lending institution information for lease, finance, balloon note programs for new and used cars, and also all the municipality information and how transactions are taxed in the various markets for the various types of transactions. We also have to take into consideration the terms and conditions under which every participating dealership is willing to transact. That's the only way we can get a scientifically perfect solution for any conceivable automotive transaction. Now, when we take this, what we call automotive payments as a service technology, and we apply it towards analytics, it gives us a completely different view of the world. And it puts the manufacturer in a position where they can look at the market through the eyes of a consumer, meaning how much is this vehicle going to cost me? How much upfront and how much a month for how many months? So if we proceed under the assumption that a consumer is going to be happy with 2 or 3 or 4 different types of vehicles, which the younger generation is, there's very little brand loyalty, then what influences their behavior is the financial package. And if we want to influence a consumer's behavior and guide them towards our products, versus the products of those products of our competitors, we need to position ourselves financially in a method that gets us in front of the consumer for the right price. We need to do that in a way where we don't overspend. To put it kind of super easily, if I'm $300 a month cheaper than all of my competitors, I'm going to get all the business. But I'm paying way too much for that business, and I'm either going to lose a tremendous amount of profit, or maybe I just go broke, right? The flip side to it is if I'm $300-400 a month more expensive than everybody else, I'm probably not going to get any of that business. So the goal is to price ourselves exactly where we need to be. And that pricing varies based on the vehicles against which we're competing. And I'll show you that example in a second. So what mScope does is mScope takes absolutely every vehicle that we have in our lineup into consideration. I've got it up on my screen, and it lets us figure out, okay, we know that this particular trim competes against these different trims from different manufacturers. And we want to look at each one of those trims and figure out what are those payments, what's being presented to a consumer in real time, and how do we create programs as a manufacturer that will position ourselves right where we want to be positioned. So the approach that I took was I wanted to look at all new 2021 and 2022 Toyotas in the Atlanta area. And I have the competitive mapping set of 2021 and 2022 Toyotas as well. Now, those are basically the list of every trim and every trim that each individual trim competes against from the other manufacturers. 30342 zip code is where I grew up. That's why I use that one. And if I take the analytic and I'm looking at lease, which is much more complex than a finance transaction, and I do a 720 credit score, I assume the customer's got 7% of MSRP for customer cash. I can put any number I want, or I can put a dollar amount in there. And I'm going to look at a 12,000 mile a year lease, which is the most common one that's quoted. And I'm just going to look at selling these vehicles at MSRP. I can tell the system that I want to look at Southeast Toyota Finance as the track lender. I want to see what Southeast Toyota Finance offerings look like against all of their competitors. And I also want to know if I want to modify that Southeast Toyota Finance offering down to the specific trim level, what precise modifications do I need to make in order to position myself exactly where I want to be positioned? When I ran this analytic, I looked at every lender. I didn't just look at the captives. There are hundreds of different lending institutions in the marketplace, and we're looking at all of them. So I've got all the captives and I got all the other banks as well. The reason for this is the captive lending institution doesn't always have the cheapest monthly payment. And if they don't have the cheapest monthly payment, if I target a payment that's not competitive, I'm going to be uncompetitive. So at the end of the day, what I said was, hey, I want to create programs that are $5 a month cheaper than my nearest competitor. It'd be the captive or it'd be any other lender. And if my payments are too high, I need to bring them down. I want to use a blend of 20% of the difference to come out of my rate or my money factor, 30% out of my residual value, and 50% out of my rebate. Now I can grab these and move any of these around if I want. So when I slide these pie slices around, the numbers will change. And I might have a different split that I want to use when I'm raising my payments, meaning I'm paying too much for it. And this is just the ones that I set up. I also put some guardrails. I don't want to rate less than 0. I don't want to add more than 5% to my residual value. And then maybe the max rebate I want to do is $5,000. Minimum rebate 0, minimum residual value 20%, maximum rate say 0.04 is a money factor, right? There's a bunch of other report settings. When I run this, the system spends 3, 4, 5 minutes running this report. I'm not going to do that now. I've already run it. And what happens is we end up with either an Excel spreadsheet, an HTML representation of a spreadsheet, or even a JSON object that can be imported into Power BI or Tableau or any other analytic tool that the manufacturer uses in order to do further analytics. And every one of these blue lines that you'll see, there's a whole bunch of vehicles and there's a massive report. I came down this Toyota Highlander because it's a fun example, but every blue line is a trim of a Toyota product. And the white ones underneath it are all the different vehicles against which that particular trim competes. And if we look, this $40,180 Highlander competes against all these other vehicles. We want to see where we are, but we need to see where we are relatively speaking, meaning we need to weigh it based on a variance in MSRP, because a $506 a month payment on a $40,000 car is different than a $506 a month payment on a $37,000 car. Just like a $531 payment on a $37,000 car would be different than a $531 payment on a $40,000 car. So we weigh it, meaning that this payment, if it was a $40,000 car, would be $571. Now, what's interesting, when we look over here, we see green and red. That's how I sorted the analytic. The green shows where we're most competitive, and the red shows where we're least competitive. So in this particular example, we're $64.60 per month, relatively speaking, cheaper than the best lender program out there on this Nissan Pathfinder, which is US Bank, which is cheaper than Nissan Financial Services, right? Conversely, on this Kia Telluride, US Bank also has the best program, which is interesting. Their weighted payment's $437.99, and we're almost $70 a month more expensive than the US Bank program on the Telluride. So these we're paying too much for. These we're paying the right amount for, these ones in the middle, and these we're missing the target, right? So if I want to know, how do I save my money? How do I, instead of end up with a payment that's this cheap, why don't I come in at $5 a month cheaper than this? And in order to do that, if I come over here, the system's going to tell me my target payment was $566.51, which is $5 cheaper than $571.51. We were able to get that $566 payment, right? No rebate. We used a 0.00147 money factor and a 58.4136% residual value. Now we can round these residuals to integers, but this just gives you the exact number, right? It shows us that our money factor went up 0.00026. Our residual went down 3.5 points. Our rebate stayed the same. We picked up $613.08 in rate and yield. We lost $1,441 in residual risk. So we can be $5 per month cheaper, relatively speaking, on this particular vehicle. And we pick up $2,054, which means you're paying $2,000 too much for this transaction. If I come down to the opposite end, this is the rate, this is the residual value, this is the change in yield and all that stuff. And I have to spend $2,500 in order to be $5 per month cheaper. So the goal is to buy the business for the exact right price. We can shift this money around and end up buying all these products and be positioned exactly where we need to be in the marketplace for the exact right price. And that is how we combine science, technology, and data to transform the industry. Thank you very much for watching.